Hey everyone, okay, so I'm gonna make a different type of video this time. This is more of an encounter that I had uh, with, I guess you could say, spirit creatures, whatever you want to call them. Not exactly sure what they were, to be perfectly honest. So anyways, the story kind of begins about a year ago, to be honest with you. I was, for, for one reason or another, I got locked out of my house. And I was going to my friend's house to get a key, and I heard the whispering of these spirit creatures and things like that, but there was a new female voice at that time because there was multiple voices that I heard and different presences that were around me, but this was something new. So I heard it talking about, they were having a conversation, these two were, a male and a female, uh, saying something about me, about casting some kind of spell on me. I don't particularly believe in magic, so I was like, okay, whatever. Uh, Shortly after that, I kept walking, and they were talking about getting witches and things after me, and I was like, those don't exist, so it's not a possibility for you to do it. They laughed at me and told me, oh yeah, they exist. Voodoo, witchcraft, werewolves, vampires. They told me all of this kind of stuff existed. And I was like, well, and they said, except for God. We have no God, we need no God, and we want no God, is what they told me. And so I just kind of kept walking, and I heard the lady say something about putting, that I'd be walking forever, basically. That she's putting an infinite loop on me or something like that, making me wander forever. I didn't really understand it at the time, but today I do. Anyways, so I kept walking, and my friend's place was probably, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 blocks at the very most away from me. As I started to go through there, it seemed like I don't know how to explain it. It was like I lost track of time. Like, I don't remember. It's different things. It was like a blur. I'm walking, but it's all on autopilot. I can hear voices and I can hear things, but I don't have any idea where I'm walking, or how long I'm walking, or where I'm walking to. That probably lasted a while. I mean, it was a very strange experience because there was other things following me the whole time, talking to me. They were talking about me, trying to get me to stop walking. Apparently, they didn't like that I was walking. It was messing up something in their universe, is what they claimed. They started calling me all different kinds of strange names. Like, one of them called me Time, another one called me the Universe, and then someone called me Everything. But I don't know what those meant. It was more confusing than anything. And then finally, it was like, I mean, a lot of stuff happened between point A and point B, but I'm going to get into this voodoo stuff. When I came out of it, it was like waking up. Like, I just woke up, and I was like looking all around trying to figure out how long have I been out. I had no idea. I knew that I left early in the morning, and that by the time I got there, the sun was already past the heights. It had moved really far, and I had no idea even if I'd been there for a day or two or whatever. My feet hurt really badly because when I got locked out of my house, I didn't have my shoes on, so I was wandering around, not barefoot. I had socks on, but it didn't do much good. My feet hurt so bad. Someone started talking to me. I looked up, and there in the sky, almost like just kind of, I don't know, just there was 2 figures. One was a male, and clearly I knew that he was a demon or a devil. I knew that for sure because of just how he looked and what he was saying. And the lady was she was African. I don't know if she wasn't from Africa. She was speaking English, but with an accent. And later on, I would learn that it was like she's from New Orleans. But okay, from that, they started accusing me of things. She claimed that I had raped and killed her daughter, who was 13, which I had no clue about. I didn't do it. And after a while, she started to realize that she had been tricked by this devil into attacking me for wrong reasons, because I completely refused to believe that. She started becoming frightened. According to them, I was in purgatory. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what purgatory is, but from what I could understand, from now and then, it's almost like another little universe, I guess you could say, or multiple universes that come into one. It's kind of a place where things that don't have a place to go when they die, I guess you could say. I don't know like the exact details on that, but that's just my experience so far. This is nothing any human has told me. This is just what I've learned from experience, basically. She started to become frightened because I wasn't afraid of her, and to be honest with you, I was more confused than anything. It like didn't seem right. Like what they were saying wasn't right. She claimed that she was going to put a spell on me and force me to kill my daughter. I refused to believe that. First, they told me that she was already dead and that I had done awful things to her, which was completely untrue, thank God. But they showed me a vision of it, and it really freaked me out because, you know, you see your own child dead, and, you know, it more than freaked me out, but I didn't believe it, so it didn't affect me that much, but it was still very hard to see. And it wasn't a clear vision. You know, it was just like a steel frame of something in a house that I didn't recognize. I became really angry at that point because I realized it wasn't true, and I started, you know, going home, and I closed my eyes at this point, and I saw, it was like when I closed my eyes, it was like opening my eyes somewhere else, and I was in this house. I knew exactly where it was. I didn't know the exact point, but I knew I was in the United States, and I knew I was in New Orleans, where I was at that time, physically speaking, I was in Finland. And I basically looked all around this room. It was like a 70s style kind of decorum. It was really, I don't know, I didn't like the colors. It was like browns and greens. Regardless of that, it was freaky. And from what I can understand now, I was looking through that lady's eyes. From what I understand, I don't completely understand it. I don't know if it's some kind of astral projection someone suggested to me, or possession. I don't know anything about that. It wasn't something I was trying to do, but I was very upset at her at the time, and I wanted to know who she was and where she was. And I found out really quickly. And I kind of marked her in a way, not knowingly, but I did, unknowingly, or at least the powers above helped me with that. I have to give it credit to them, because it wasn't anything I was doing, you know, willfully. As far as consciously speaking, I wasn't consciously trying to teleport myself to her. I wasn't consciously trying to see through her eyes. I wasn't consciously trying to, you know, do anything to her. I just wanted to go home, to be honest with you, because I've been walking for so long, and I was just happy that my daughter was okay and that everything was okay with me. So anyways, I went home, and I never heard from them again for a long time. A year goes by, right? I'm sitting in this exact same room, and suddenly I hear that same lady's voice, and she's talking to me through my left ear, and she's saying something about voodoo, and this and that, and what about Papa Degba is what she said. And I was like, who's that? You know, I don't even know who that is. And not even about a minute later, suddenly there's this blue-looking guy who's like transparent, sitting in my room. He's not completely blue, but it was like, you know, exactly what you would think a ghost should look like. And that's what, it didn't frighten me. I mean, at that time I dealt with fear quite a bit, and I had noticed that I wasn't afraid anymore of many of these things, but I know that they were afraid of me, for whatever reason. I could feel their fear, let's say, that like vibrations on my skin, on my flesh. I could feel it it felt like fear, but it wasn't mine, and it was like trembling, you know. And he instantly started saying, you know, ask why I called him and why I was saying I was him, and I was like, I never said I was you, and I didn't call you. I don't even know who you are. And he started telling me who he was, and then I said, you need to leave, and you need to leave now. And there's something in his eyes that just told me he was just plotting something awful on me. And so I attacked him in the spirit realm in a certain way, which maybe I shouldn't have done in hindsight, but I don't. It wasn't something I consciously did, you know. It was just something that I saw him, and I was like, okay, you can't get away from me. I can't let you go, because you got something on your mind that's going to hurt me or my family. And he did. I attacked him, and I thought he was gone, but he didn't. He came back with 2 other people, this time in a different way. They all came to me, messing with me, trying to tell me that I was using voodoo and I shouldn't be, and that it was their thing, and that they were going to take my head, or they were going to take my balls. You know, these kind of things. This is the type of things that they were telling me, and they were telling me that, you know, you got some kind of thing inside you. You know, you could be powerful. You is what they kept telling me. You know. And I was like, no, I don't want that. I was like, first I was like, well, what do you mean? What do I have to do? And they're like, kill children, or it was always some kind of awful thing that I had to do. And I was like, no, there's no way in the world I'll ever do that. Not to anybody's child, not to my child, not to anybody's person. You know, it's just not worth it. So I basically just kind of ignored them. That did not work. They just kept coming and coming. They weren't physically here. It was more like well, they were physically here because they could hurt me. They could cut me with their damn knives. They had a few knives, wicked looking ones, that they kept trying to stab me with, and it didn't really do anything to me, but it was supposed to, apparently. It was supposed to curse me or something like that. They were constantly trying to curse me at this time. They followed me around to multiple locations, trying to take my head. Always trying to take my head. Always trying to take my heart or my head. I don't know why. It was very... Hindsight, I mean, looking back, it was frightening, but at the time, I was more concerned about how am I going to get out of this situation, because I couldn't really... I don't know. It was like I was in a state of confusion, so maybe I was kind of, I don't know, cursed or whatever you want to say, but it was more confusing than anything. Eventually, by the power of God, I was able to overcome them. That's a very long story and strange one. I might talk about that later. What I want to lead up to is the conclusion of this, because right at this point they started telling me, well, it was a father and a daughter that were the main 2. I don't know who the third one was. He was just some kind of lackey, I guess you could say, but the most powerful ones were this father and the daughter. And the daughter called herself the Voodoo Queen, and the father called himself the Devil King, or King of Devil, or sometimes Voodoo King. But they claim New Orleans is their territory, is what they told me. If I ever went there, they were going to kill me, which is fine. Whatever they say, I don't believe it anymore. But anyways, they came back a third time because basically they got beat pretty badly over here. I'm not trying to brag or anything, because it wasn't really me. It was, I was given strength by something else and someone else, you know, the higher ups, and that was the only reason why I was able to overcome that, which was really a terrible experience, but not as terrible as this one. Probably about a month later, they came back with a new devil, some little thing that tried to attack me. At this point in time, I'd been in multiple spiritual warfare, so it wasn't, they weren't that big of a threat at that time, you know. He was trying to basically intimidate me. They use a lot of fear and intimidation and will. It's like this energy, this you know, just, how do you explain will? It's almost like, you know, when you just see someone and they just exert this I don't know. Will is a hard thing because it's more of a spiritual thing, but it exists on the physical plane too. it's like tapping into emotions, projecting fear, and when those two fears clash, there's like a reverberate. There's like a shaking. You can feel it crackling through your bones when you come across someone that has a strong will, or they have strong emotions, or they have something like that. You can feel it, not inside, but on the outside of your skin. You can feel it. I could feel it in just rippling through the air. It might sound crazy to some people, but it's the only way I can really explain it. You can almost see it. It's so apparent sometimes. Well, anyways, they came back with this little devil who was convinced that he could defeat me, and they thought they could defeat me too. All three of them came back that time. I battled them for probably about an hour, and then an angel came down and told me basically that you need to leave the house now, and you need to go, and don't look back. Don't take anything with you. You don't need anything. Whatever's in your pockets, it's okay. I think I might have grabbed something when I was leaving, because I was like, so I left. I just walked. I didn't take anything. I didn't take a car. I didn't take any transportation. I just started walking, and I started walking out of town. And they said, keep going. These things were following me, and others were following me too. Someone told me that I was carrying Sheol with me. I don't know if that's true, but because there's a lot to this story, but I'm kind of coming in the middle of it. But I kept walking down this road, and the angels kept telling me, just trust us, just trust us. And I did. It was kind of frightening, because they were really trying to mess with my mind. They were trying to make me confused. They were trying to make me, always trying to forget who I am, mostly. Forget my own name. Sometimes I had to look at my own ID just to remember who I was, not at this time, but at certain times before. At this time, I'm kind of used to it, but there's two little girls. There's one very young girl and one that was maybe a teenage girl that were following me too. I didn't know who they were. They were following behind me and kept trying to grab a hold of my hands from behind. I was trying to ignore them and keep them to my back, because that's generally a good thing to do if you're ever encountering spirits or anything like that. Ignore it. If there's voices, ignore it. Turn your back on it and keep walking until it fades away, which is usually what works, but it didn't work in this instance because there was just far too many voices and far too much. I kept walking and walking, and suddenly, all of a sudden I stopped to drink something, because I had something to drink on me, and this lady stopped and gave me food and gave me a bunch of stuff like that I needed, which was strange because, I wasn't hitchhiking. I wasn't trying to get a ride. I was just trying to walk. I was trying to walk away from this town. I was trying to walk away from what was with me, and trying to get it away basically from the town, is the best I could say. I kept walking. I don't know how long I walked. I wasn't keeping really track of time, or I knew I was in time, but I wasn't really keeping track of it. I probably got a few miles maybe down the road, and a van going the opposite direction stops. These two young men get out of the car, and they say, hey, you need a ride? I was like, okay, sure. And they say, well, we're going to our church. Do you want to stay there for the night? I was like, yes. This sounds perfect. It seemed like the right thing to do. I mean, sometimes when you're in these situations and you're very confused, you kind of have to just have faith. And you just have to have faith. And you have to just know. You'll know what to do when you need to do it. There's no confusion. You will know exactly what you need to do. And I knew that this was a good thing. I got into there. Those others weren't with me for some reason. I guess they were maybe a ways behind me. Maybe I don't know how they were traveling. From what I understand, they're all grounded right now. None of them can fly or move as fast as they used to, as far as all spirit creatures go now. But anyway, so there's an angel in there, and it was telling me everything was going to be okay. I got to the church, which ended up being kind of a community center, and I kind of feel bad for these guys because they were very nice to me. These two young men, they gave me a blanket. They just left me there inside their church and said someone else will come in a little while and bring you food, which did happen. They brought me some McDonald's, and I was very happy about that. I was hungry, and it was really nice, especially all the negativity that I'd been through, to see a little bit of humanity coming through, and it just seemed like, I was being blessed that day. And anyways, as I was there at the church, and it's probably getting about dark, I started to realize that there was more in that church with me than... Now, I'm just going to tell you guys, churches are not safe places. Churches are not protected. You know, they're not like, you know, there is no protected places. There's no, like, you know, place where these creatures, these spirit creatures can't get to, technically speaking. Only in your own home do you have control over this to any degree, and that's it. And your own body. But other than that, they followed me into that church, which maybe it's a possibility it could be because it was a community center, but I believe not. I think they could have went anywhere I went. Anyways, I didn't mean to bring all of this crap in there. There was probably about 60 demons in there, maybe at least one devil who I won't even mention his name. He's quite famous. He's in the Bible. Anyways, he was in there. I kind of fought them a little bit, and they were cowering in the corner. It was like they were waiting for something, and I was laying down on one of the pews, I guess, you know, the benches there with my blanket and everything, just kind of talking to angels or whatever. Don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I'm going to stop this video and make part 2.